to the bold analysis. I know there is a political development that I failed to analyze intentionally. And this was the meeting that ODM rebel MPs held with William Ruto immediately the day after they were expelled. And the reason why I did not analyze it is because I saw it as just vipindire. Seriously, there was nothing serious that President William Ruto was telling those MPs that he could not have told them even before they were expelled from ODM. And I need to tell you something. There is no development that is discussed in this camera, these captured meetings on cameras. Some of those meetings are normally just held for optics. William Ruto is so good on these optics. But I did internal introspecting. And I want to give you a critical angle that maybe not many of us have been trying to look at. And I want to start by asking you, do you think Jalang'o do not know that probably squabbling with indecisiveness in Nairobi politics can cost him the Lang'ata seat? Do you think he doesn't know? He knows. And for your information, let me tell you, if you check the results in the last elections in Lang'ata was actually, Jalang'o won against Nixon Korir. The difference was 2,000 votes. And if an election was to be done, if Nixon, because they have government now, if William Ruto wanted to take that seat from Jalang'o, he would have just, Nixon would have just brought up some, few complaints here and there, go to court, they secure the election to be nullified, and they go back to election and they get their way. But somehow, Jalang'o got it there, and William Ruto picked his competitor Nixon Korir and was given the the PS in charge of lands. So all this was choreographed. The 2,000 gap, if William Ruto wanted to take that position by then, it was there. I may tell you this. The first rally that was held in Kibera, immediately after the elections, I remember Gaucho and Nuru Okanga, by that time they were still fresh and just getting into the podium. And they complained that there were some leaders around Azimio that had started enticing them to take them to President Ruto, but they refused. And by that time, that was the last event that I think Jalang'o attended, and then he never attended another event. Number two, I also want to say this. Even the decision by Jalang'o to vie for that seat, I think he had already been in conversation with William Ruto for some time. And all those MPs that are around William Ruto, if you look at Kisumu, it's clear. Kisumu, if you go against ODM, it's difficult. It's a mountain to get it. Game is sealed. Elisha cannot get it. If you look at Bondo, sealed. Ochanda cannot get it. I understand he's not even going to vie again there. If you look at all those MPs, it's only Jalang'o who comes from a metropolitan constituency. He comes from a constituency that has both a high percentage of William Ruto's imported voters. I'm using imported voters because that's one of the strategies that we actually understood in Nairobi politics. This Lang'ata is normally it's an epicenter of transition politics, especially for politicians within the nuclear space. There have been two schools of thought. I know you must have heard that maybe at one point Raila wanted to bring in Winnie to vie in Lang'ata. You might have heard of those things. Number one. And even to date, that those who buy that school of thought, that Raila is pushing Jalang'o out so that Winnie can take up that position. And that is why I can tell you, Eric Omondi might not be given that ticket, but that's why you see Eric Omondi, Raila had to hang out with Eric Omondi, and the speculation came out that, you know what, maybe he's giving it to Eric Omondi, so that he will water down that Winnie Odinga thing. You know? And so, what am I saying? And what am I seeing? Jalang'o is a caretaker MP in Lang'ata. Is a caretaker because I see William Ruto's interest in that position. Remember, before even the constitution split, Lang'ata and Kibera were one. It was Raila Odinga's area. I see Jalang'o as a caretaker. And why? William Ruto is using Jalang'o as a project to cut Raila chunk of the vote in Nairobi. He wants to cut Raila to size, especially in Nairobi. Remember, you know, Felix was, I worked with him at Radiomaisha. Yes, when they were co-hosting with Mwakideo. And let me just tell you, they would attract huge following. In fact, listenership of the said radio station by then, it was very high in Nairobi, especially when they are on air. So this is something that if you will actually understand, this is something that happened. And he knows very well that even before he came to, to be the MP, he had a lot of influence in Nairobi, not just here, not just in Lang'ata. In fact, he will just choose any constituency. Even if he will choose to go and vie in Westlands, he will still have some influence. Even if he will have chosen to come and vie in Umoja, or go to, even Roysambu, he will still have some influence. But he chose Lang'ata. And William Ruto is simply suppressing him to suppress the Azimio vote in Nairobi. This is the main thing. Jalang'o is a caretaker. And the reason why Ruto is so much staunch and is putting all strategies to manage Lang'ata is because he would want to plant his own there. Mark this podcast. If there will be transition in 2032, and a son or a daughter or anyone from president's family will be coming out to seek an elective office, I foresee the probability of the said candidate seeking Lang'ata. Yes. And perhaps things change. Someone said that a day in politics can make a big difference. Even if he's not careful, he might lose ODM ticket and even lose UDA ticket. And he will even give it to another UDA person, run as an independent. It's possible. Politics never say it's impossible. The likelihood of missing on both UDA and ODM ticket for 2027 is there. And so, I see a possibility that he's being managed and suppressed, knocked out blindly. And that is what maybe he's not saying. And that is started by saying, does he know that he's stand to lose? Yes. And he's taking advantage of it. Thirdly, Ruto is putting him under his arms, and he's been earmarked for destroying, because on the other end he wants to undermine the sprouting leaders on the other side of the Azimio wing. I want to tell you this. If you watch, I want you to look at these few leaders. Medho, and that was Senator, Dede Nyoro, Kiharu Member of Parliament. There is this Kimani Kuria, I think from Molo MP. Who else? Yes, let's pick those three. Jalang'o, the miracle senator from Kiambu, they've all been saying, and in some special way saying, that William Ruto has a soft spot in building the young leaders. So in Mount Kenya, he's building those leaders, yes. But you may want to ask yourself a very simple question. Is he building Jalang'o or destroying? And that is why I say, for better, Jalang'o, someone must tread careful. This is a route that is possible. And of course, I've seen him now, the smear campaign, his name dragged into some gold stuff, and he was even going to sue the person and then say, no, I'm not going to, which I think was a good, those people who advised him was good, because Cyprian was going to really reap big from that publicity. He needs to cross careful. On this one, you need to ask, are we building or destroying? Because again, I don't think there is a probability of going back to the radio.